Hi, my name's Tom Huddlestone, ex-player of Derby County, Tottenham Hotspur and Hull City. So my journey started in Nottingham as a schoolboy, playing five-a-side for my school team, and then I was picked up luckily by Nottingham Forest at the time. Spent 4 years there, had a couple of the old Osgood Slatters injuries, and then I moved to Derby County for 6 years, from the age of 13 up until 18, and then I was signed by Tottenham Hotspurs. Ended up spending 8 seasons there. Towards the end I had a few ankle surgeries, and then I signed for Hull for the first time. Under Steve Bruce, spent 4 good years there, and then moved back to Derby for 3 years to be closer to the family. And then in the past season I've played at Hull City again. When I was at Tottenham, the toughest part of my career was when I had ankle surgery. Ended up having 3 operations in the space of 15 months, which was obviously difficult mentally at the age of 22 or 23. 2 of them were microfractures, 1 of them was an ATFL reconstruction. What I know now is that the microfracture generally takes anywhere between 6 to 9 months potentially to heal properly, whereas at the time I was told 4 months, so it was probably rushed, maybe on my behalf as well. Keen to get back playing, was probably rushed a little bit, hence needing a second microfracture. Neither of them really did too much good, and then the ATFL, which was ruptured when I was 16 years old and hadn't been put back together, the specialist decided to put that back together as the last resort, so to speak. Thankfully I managed to obviously play for another 12 and hopefully plus seasons, but yeah, it was very tough at the time, and I guess I wish I knew a bit more, and I probably should have taken a little bit longer with that first operation to make sure stuff was 100% rather than sort of keep prodding, trying to get back quicker than I maybe could have. The good bits within football or sports in general, having friends outside of the game who have injuries, they might go on a waiting list for an operation on a knee that they might have to struggle with it for 12 months, whereas generally within football, once you have the injury, once the swelling's gone down, you're in surgery straight away. Within 3 or 4 days, you've got a set plan for your rehabilitation program. Usually you've got a physio or 2, a masseur, a doctor that are on call 24/7, whether that's needing advice, medical stuff, medicines. So yeah, I think the football industry is good in that aspect. There's always people on call who are more qualified than a lot of people looking on Google. Generally the first week or 2 of pre-season, a lot of the clubs will go to a local university. All the players will have their ECGs and their heart screening every 12 to 24 months to keep on top of things, which that has been the case since I've started professionally at 16. So there's a lot of data within that. Equally, we have a blood test every season, compulsory. Obviously, if there's any issues arise in between, you can have additional ones. So there is a lot of data, especially somebody who's 35 like myself. My experience of medicals has been very different, to be honest. There's been some where I've had every joint scanned, obviously back scans, knees, hips, ankles, pre and post injury. But there's been some where it's a case of that's almost a token gesture, because I've been told you're signing regardless of what the scans say. The manager wants you, and that's what I've been told, so you will be signing. And obviously the lower down the leagues you go, clubs realistically aren't willing to spend X amount on scans and stuff if their budget doesn't allow. But if they like their player, they might just obviously speed up the medical and miss a few bits out that the clubs with the higher budgets might necessarily do. So following on from the medicals, obviously clubs in the lower leagues, even clubs in the higher leagues who don't necessarily have a big medical budget, it would be obviously more beneficial for them to have all of a player's heart scans, injury history, injections, any knocks available straight away, because they can read that rather than, if they haven't got the funds to get the scans in place, at least they have a good idea of issues in the past, and obviously a player can tell them if anything's happened since their last scans or ECGs, etc. When I was involved in the international setup, whether that be quite a lot of games with the under-21s or the senior squad, majority of times that we meet up, there will be a lot of testing done, a lot of the data tracked from your training sessions, etc. But I'm not sure if that is always relayed back to the club. Obviously it would make a big difference if it was, because it would tweak the training that you do once you're back, but the player doesn't really know, and all you want to do is obviously play football and represent your country as often as possible. As you get a little bit older and you start thinking towards retirement, I've had a lot of scans, different injections throughout my career, and it would be interesting and nice to have them all in front of me when I've retired. Obviously, if I don't stay in football, a lot of that information potentially could be lost, and I go to my local GP, sign up, and he's starting from square one. So it'll be nice for them to have all the information. And I spoke to some ex-players who literally, once they've retired, they need a doctor, and they're still ringing someone from the club they were at 3 years ago because they don't understand the sort of real world and having a local GP for issues that arise outside of football. I think the process into retirement could be a lot smoother from a medical standpoint. There are some players such as myself who take quite a keen interest in the medical side of bits and bobs that they've had done to their body, but equally there's some that don't really think about it. But 3 or 4 years into retirement, they might become unstuck, or as I say, if they have to go to a local GP, they won't be able to give them much verbal information because they don't know what they've had done throughout the years. I'm not registered with a GP. From being the age of 8 years old when I signed for Forest, all of my medical bits and bobs have been done. 4 years at Forest, 6 at Derby, 8 at Tottenham, 4 back at Hull, 3 at Derby, and then another season at Hull. So I've never realistically had a reason to get a local GP, obviously with moving house and stuff like that, but with a doctor sort of on call, I've never seen the need to get one. That's why I can see the issue when AB3 say that there's half of the doctors that don't know if a player actually has a GP or not. For somebody who moves club to club, or foreign players that come over to the UK for 2, 3, 4 seasons, whatever it may be, there's no infrastructure to get all that information and keep it under one roof really at the moment. Obviously with myself, as I mentioned, the 3 operations in 15 months, I had a lot of scans, MRI scans, CT scans, to try and get to the bottom of the issue. I spent a long time, before I moved to Tottenham, I didn't really have any injuries at Derby, but once I moved from Tottenham to Hull, obviously it was very beneficial that all my data and scans and what injections worked best for me was available for Hull to look into, rather than sort of starting from scratch when a new player signs. Which is why the AB3 app is perfect in my eyes, especially for myself who's coming towards the end of their career. It will be nice to have something all in one app. Obviously that's the way the world's moving. Having seen the app, I think it's excellent. There's the full breakdown of everything, and obviously on mine is quite a lot, but it's good information to have, and I think the future generations of players probably will take more of an interest in their own bodies and injections and scans, as I've mentioned. So I think a lot of them will use this app and enjoy it moving forward from a younger age. Once you're out of the football domain, whether you be on holiday or anything, if something was to happen for you, God forbid, if you was to collapse and need special assistance, it would be nice for somebody to be able to access your phone, look into the app, look at your medical history, whether it be your blood type, if you've had any recent concussions or anything like that, and be able to come to a diagnosis quicker than if they were starting from scratch and having to do test after test after test. I think it's very exciting and important that if I was to go to an A&E or see an independent specialist, they can dictate or type a note within my app, which will go directly to my team doctor, which again, if it goes through a third party in the player, the explanation might not necessarily be correct when it gets back, or with how busy the doctors and independent physios are, you might be waiting sort of 10 to 14 days for any response to get back to your team doctor. With all the things with AB3 being in one platform, I think it benefits everybody. It's a quicker diagnosis for the player and for the clubs, which obviously is saving time, effort and money. You get to the end result quicker, and you wouldn't need to continuously repeat certain tests. I've been fortunate that I've always had the best medical care, nutritional or sports science advice for somebody who's potentially an individual athlete who doesn't necessarily get that team care. Within the tool section of the AB3 app, there's a lot of information in there, and obviously it's all proven to work in sports, and it's good for the individual. AB3 empowers the athlete, merges the records, and revolutionises the care in sport.